We're back with another weekly chapter review. I know I'm late. I'm like, what's today? Thursday? I'm like 2 days late. Mm, Technically, by the time this gets uploaded, it could be potentially be three, but I'm here nonetheless. And as you see, I got the new equipment. We're here. We're here. We're here. Anyway, uh, first order of business, just to bring awareness to stuff that's going on right now that's about to be coming out. I want to start getting to the habit of posting on TikTok more, and I will. I will when I find the time and when I find the skill set to do so. I need to take a TikTok class and uploading clips. But nonetheless, I have a podcast coming out. I've had a podcast for a while, but I was trying to find direction with it, and I think I finally found creatively something that I can work with. And then at some point, I want to do short films. It really just depends on where I see it going. But for right now, the first episode for the podcast will be coming out Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, I'll drop the link in the description. I'll also drop the link for the original YouTube video because it's going to be a visual podcast as well as an audio podcast. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on YouTube. And then I'm trying to get it on Apple Podcasts right now as we speak because not everybody has Spotify. And that's a little bit more difficult to do. But nonetheless, just to make y'all aware of that and make sure y'all stay tuned. Look out for that podcast. I'm going to keep releasing them on a weekly basis. So one episode a week. It should be manageable. I should be able to be consistent about it. It should be doable. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the first volume we're talking about today, which is Kagurabachi. Now, with chapter 61 coming to a head, it is so interesting that Samura keeps adding layers to his character without actually having to be there. The way that Samura has been trying to protect Chihiro, and this whole time Samura has took on the burden of protecting his daughter, a daughter that will never know who her father is, so that way that no one can get to her. It's kind of like the burdens are all on his shoulders. And I think that Kagurabachi, like the author, he just has a way of just telling stories. It reminds me of Chainsaw Man with the way that so many small story, not necessarily small story elements, but you don't have to do a lot to get a lot. You know, you can do little things and it'll have a bigger impact. And I think that's what Kagurabachi is getting into, like the realm of understanding for character development is the ability to be like, okay, look, this character is unbeatable and we are stuck in a deadlock, but there's an element to this character that we're not aware of, us as the audience as well as the people who we are reading from their perspective. And one of the things that's very interesting is with Chihiro still being alive, it raises a couple questions in terms of what Shiba had told him. If we ever get to that, and maybe the chapter that's coming up, mind you, this is chapter 61. I would do a release for chapter 62, but you'll see that next week anyway in a timely manner. I will be on time. Um, but it kind of makes me wonder, where do we go from here? And it's like if the Kaminabi, the Hishaku, and Samura are in a three-way deadlock, one person has leverage with the other, and as opposed to like coming at one entity over the other, they have come to the conclusion they figure out a way to manage all the liabilities in the situation, and now they have to go from there. And one of the biggest weaknesses is figuring out that Samura has a daughter, and it's a crazy element that we did not think would be added to the plot, if you will. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, I guess we're stuck here. And then it's like, oh, we do have a way out. And I always wondered what that would look like. Would that be a direct free for all fight between the Kabanabi Hishaku and Samura? But the way that the Hishaku have been hiding in the shadows and Samura has been basically having eyes that are all the way around uh the area that they're at due to the enchanted blade, it's like everything is out in the open in broad daylight, and yet it's still just as complicated. The Kabunabe can't attack the Hishaku. The Hishaku can't attack Samura. Samura can attack either, but he will not due to the certain conditions that he placed under it. He could attack the Shishaku, but he still needs them. So it's like everyone is out in the open. Like the transparency and honesty between the three-way deadlock doesn't negate the reality of how complicated the situation is. And it's one of those things where it's like, even in the chapter, like one of the things that they were saying is that even if Chihiro were to draw Enten, Samora could easily be like, sword bearer, pop in, one shot him, leave, look for the next one to grab a contract or to grab a sword. And I think that it's interesting that the Kabunabi's only response for the Hishaku is Samora's pressure on the Hishaku. And I think that that's very interesting because the biggest thing that they don't have control of is the one thing that'll give them control of the situation. And so, of course, what they're trying to do is utilize the weaknesses that they have access to. But the fact of the matter is, they don't want to use Samora's daughter. And I think that's the crazy part. And it adds an element because it's you would think that Samora has been by himself this whole time. But in reality, he still has been by himself, but it's by choice. He wants to protect his daughter. So therefore he was like, you know what? There's a spell on her head that basically says, I don't know who my father is. Instant absent father figure. And it's crazy that there's a sorcery that can do that. But nonetheless, I think it's such a it humanizes Samora again in a way that like he's not just a monster. Like he's not just someone who is roaming the streets trying to kill whoever. He really is someone who's trying to take the brunt of everything on his shoulders alone and then go about it the right way. And it's interesting because there is something about that that is very appealing. And I think Chihiro, as opposed to being angry about Aruha's death, this could be an opportunity to sympathize with Samora. But upon learning upon learning whatever Shiba says about the war and how Chihiro's dad had passed, there's so much information that we have at our disposal that we need to get through. And I'm very nervous about it because part of me believes that Shiba was in on it. Part of me believes that there's elements that we're not aware of. And that's something that's really important to understand. And so, even though even though they have this three-way deadlock, the fact that the only thing that Chihiro and crew can do is make up for the one vulnerability that Samora has against the Hishaku is the equivalent of being powerless, but yet doing this one thing, hoping that you can you can have your cake and eat it too. I want to be able to protect us. Therefore, by protecting Samora, we protect the Kamanabi, which therefore allows us to defeat the Hishaku, which then will come to a point where we have to fight Samora. It's the lesser of two evils in quite the literal sense. And I think that there's so many morals attached to it, and it makes for such a complex story. And it's just like, it's so crazy that even the daughter herself wouldn't even realize that that's her dad because of what's the spell that's on her. It makes it impossible for other people to recognize her as Samora's daughter. And I think that that's insane. And she's just like in school, like chilling, minding her business. And something that makes it, we see another Hishaka member as well, and I don't know his name at all, but he doesn't like Hirohiko at all. And I've actually, it's been like one of my favorite things about Kagurabachi is seeing what these Hishaku members look like the Hishaku leaders. I wanted to see what they look like. I want to see the source that they have going on. I am really like interested in that. I think it's because of the mystery that they provide and the way that they have showcased abilities in Kagurabachi is very unique, isn't very cookie cutter. It's very it evolves. And I think that because it has such a mystery element to it, on top of it not being so set in stone, it creates so much room for creativity and also growth. And so I am really excited about when it comes to a head. And one of the things that I think is the most beautiful thing is where I have the chapter right here. That's why I keep looking over here, y'all. But one of the most beautiful things in the chapter this whole time is although Samora's daughter will never know that that's her father, he is still watching over her nonetheless through the eyes of an owl. And again, this goes back to the original, like the owl's eyes being wisdom. And for someone who can't see, or actually to be blinded, and in Samora's case, he has the ability to see it all. And yet to be blind, he burdens himself with so many things. You can say that he's blinded by what he carries. And now that he can see, he still is blinded by what he carries. So even if you gave him vision, which he has, he still looks over the things that he is responsible for. And I think that it creates a different character element to Samora that I wasn't really prepared for. I thought it would have been a cookie cutter, straightforward thing. But the fact of the matter is that it's not. Samora is one of my, I'm not gonna say he's my favorite character, but it's nice to watch unfold. He's not just one layer. It's not just vengeance and whatever the case may be. Like he's not Batman. He's just not. But we'll continue reading Kagurabachi, of course. And then y'all will see a new volume. I'm tired of using the same old volume. This volume one, like it's cool, but I know about that volume two, and I need it. I need it now. I'm not fiending or itching, but it would be nice to have in my possession. But y'all be easy. Have a blessed day.